In the 9th year of the Yuanxi reign, there was a severe drought in Yingzhou, with only 20.3% of the autumn harvest. The winter was extremely cold, and many people and livestock froze to death. Zhao Lin, an office worker, traveled through chaotic times and became an ordinary rural youth. Relying on the spirit beast map that can absorb the souls of exotic beasts, he awakened the power of bears and the speed of leopards step by step, embark on the path of longevity in martial arts. Keywords of the novel. Wudao Changsheng. Starting from the spirit beast diagram with no pop-ups, Wudao Changsheng. Starting from the spirit beast diagram, download the complete text, Wudao Changsheng. Starting from the spirit beast diagram, read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Rural Youth. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1 Rural Youth. In the 9th year of the Yuanxi reign, there was a severe drought in Yingzhou, with only 20.3% of the autumn harvest. The winter was extremely cold, and many people and livestock froze to death. Qinghe County Annals. Bang. Bang in the forest on the southern slope of Baitu Mountain, a 15 or 16-year-old boy wearing a tattered cotton jacket is vigorously swinging his hoe and shoveling towards the ground. The weather was cold and the earth was frozen, and the soil was as hard as a stone. He worked hard for half a day to dig out a small pit that was less than half a meter deep. There are several pine cones scattered in the pit. Found it. The young man bent down to pick up the pine cones, wiped away the floating soil on them, and carried them into his arms in a precious and heavy manner. When he raised his hoe again, he suddenly felt a wave of dizziness. He quickly supported his body with a hoe and rested his chin on the handle of the hoe, slowing down for a while. The hardships I endured in my previous life add up, and I'll finish it in just 1 month in this life. Zhao Lin let out a sigh, and the hot breath turned into a white mist, blurring everything in front of him. He actually comes from another world. In his past life, he was an ordinary office worker who lived an ordinary and simple life. He didn't like sports or playing games, and his only hobby was reading novels when he had nothing to do. Unexpectedly, upon realizing it, I inexplicably traveled through this world. The original owner of this body was Zhao Lin, an ordinary farmer from Sanja village in Baitu Mountain. He died a month ago due to catching a cold wind. Unlike many predecessors who traveled through time, Zhao Lin is not an orphan, with both parents and an older brother above him. Just because my family is poor, my mother is blind in both eyes. Last year, my father went to the mountains to pick herbs and was hit by a wild boar, puncturing his chest and lungs. Although he managed to survive, he fell ill and lost his ability to work. Brother Zhao Shan is 10 years older than him and is the backbone of the family. Due to a poor grain harvest this year, he was unable to pay the autumn grain. 3 days ago, he was arrested by the government to serve hard labor to offset taxes. In this way, all the burden of the family falls on him. Zhao Lin had just recovered from a serious illness and saw that his family was running out of food. He picked up a hoe and went into the mountain to search for food. Normally, Yingzhou does not belong to northern Xinjiang. Why is winter so cold? Zhao Lin rubbed his hands, which were so cold that they turned red, and thought to himself. At the beginning of his journey, he once thought that he had arrived at the end of the Ming dynasty and caught up with the Little Ice Age. But the country name and era name do not match. The name of this dynasty is Zhou, which he has never heard of before, and the customs and traditions are also very different. Although it was not the end of the Ming dynasty, the situation did not improve much. Having no food to eat and living in poverty is a true portrayal of his current life. Let's live on for now. Zhao Lin cut off his thoughts and continued to dig the ground with his hoe. When he entered the mountain, he saw a squirrel in the snow and chased after it for a few steps. The squirrel disappeared, but unexpectedly discovered a cave. Zhao Lin speculated that this should be a place where squirrels hide their winter food, so he decided to dig it up and take a look. As expected, everything happened. After digging for over an hour, a small pile of pine cones, hundreds of foxtail millet and beans, and a few unripe wild fruits finally appeared at the bottom of the cave. This guy is really good at handling things. Zhao Lin is very pleased that these foods are enough for the whole family to eat for 2 days. Seeing no one around, he took out his cloth bag and put his things inside. After flipping through the soil a few times and ensuring that no grain had been missed, he tied a cloth bag around his waist and covered it with an old cotton jacket. Looking up at the sky, carefully walked back along the way. At this moment, heavy snow covered the deep and dangerous valleys, filling them up. It was impossible to see from the outside. One accidentally fell in and either died from falling or freezing. I heard that Zhang Niuer from the neighboring village fell into a snow den and lost his life. Sanja village is located at the southern foot of Baitu mountain, sparsely inhabited by over 100 households. Zhao Lin returned to the village and saw more than 10 men, women, and children standing at the top of the village, gathering together and whispering. "Zhao brothers, have you heard about the Hu Laowu family?" Passing through the crowd, Lu Dazhu next door called out to Zhao Lin. "What's wrong with Hu Laowu?" Zhao Lin glanced towards the east end of the village and faintly heard a burst of crying. Hu Laowu is a hunter in the village. He married a widow from Dongsuan last year and gave birth to a pair of chubby kids 2 months ago. Twins are rare in this era, and my predecessor even went to see them with his father. Lu Dazhu lowered his voice and said, "His parents have drilled into the mountain kiln." Zhao Lin was taken aback and thought he had heard the wrong thing. "What did you say?" "Hu Laowu's parents drilled into the mountain kiln yesterday. When they found him this morning, the old couple hugged each other and froze to death." Lu Dazhu's eyes turned red as he spoke. Zhao Lin was stunned for a while, unable to say a word. There are more than 10 caves under a cliff on the outer ridge of Baitu mountain, which are built like earthen jars. Locals call them death kills. It is said that during times of war and famine, life cannot continue, and elderly people who have lost their labor force will move in on their own to alleviate the burden on their families. Afterwards, the family would deliver a meal every day, bringing a few bricks with them. After 10.5 days, the cave entrance would be sealed. Zhao Lin always thought that sending a kiln to death was just a legend, but he didn't expect it to happen vividly before his eyes. He felt something choking up in his throat and saw 2 elderly people holding their grandchildren, smiling uncontrollably. "Why, didn't you just give birth to your grandson?" Lu Dazhu shook his head and said, "Mrs. Hu's legs and feet are not good enough to do heavy work. She has added 2 more kids to her family. Can she support 6 people on her own?" Zhao Lin still felt incredulous. No matter how difficult it is, eating grass roots and bark can withstand winter. Why seek death? Next spring, we will collect a head tax, and his parents will count him as 2 heads. Can we also pull Hu Laowu to do hard labor? Lu Dazhu lowered his eyelids and didn't look at him. Besides, his parents are almost 60. Zhao Lin clenched the hoe tightly, his fingers turning white as he pinched them. "How could you die at 60? Lu Dazhu sighed and said, "If they don't die, then the child will die." After a moment of silence, Zhao Lin glanced towards his own direction, frowning tighter and tighter. Finally, he cursed, "This world. Is it Lin air?" Zhao Lin returned home and a 50-year-old woman walked out of the stove, holding onto the door frame and looking over with her eyes open. The old woman was the mother of Zhao Lin's generation. Her eyes were originally good, and when she was young, she did sewing and patching work for people. In order to save lamp oil, she often worked in the dark, and over the years, her eyes were worn out. "Mom, it's me." Zhao Lin responded and walked over to grab his mother's hand. "I saw a squirrel's nest up the mountain, which contained a lot of winter food." As he spoke, he handed the cloth bag to his mother's hand. Lin Air really has the ability. Zhao's mother's wrinkles spread out on her face and gently stroked Zhao Lin's forehead. "You're just sick, aren't you tired?" Zhao Lin smiled and said, "I'm not tired, I'm just hungry. Come and eat." Zhao's father walked out of the inner room, slightly hunched as he walked. 3 people sat around the table, 1 bowl of porridge, 1 plate of pickles in the middle, a few pieces of maoyu, and Zhao Lin had an extra black mantou. Zhao Lin picked up the mantou and broke it off. "Mom and Dad, you can eat it too." Father Zhao waved his hand and said, "Your mother and I have had lunch. Just have some congee." Zhao's mother also said, "Don't give up, Liner. We don't change at home, we're not hungry." Zhao Lin sighed in his heart, knowing that he couldn't persuade him, he started eating in silence. During the banquet, the 2 elders were not in a high mood and didn't speak much. Zhao Lin speculated that they might have heard about the Hu family and couldn't help but feel a little worried. They don't have any ideas. When he first crossed over, he couldn't have a deep affection for his family in this lifetime. But during the more than half month he was bedridden, his family took turns taking care of him, his older brother went out to work part-time to support the family, his mother took care of him in front of the bed, and his father was busy both inside and outside. Family affection is everywhere, and his mentality is slowly changing. Now he truly regards himself as a member of the family. Born into such a poor family, Zhao Lin carefully considered how to use his advanced knowledge to change the family's financial situation. However, based on the information obtained, things are not easy. Firstly, the cultural route is blocked. The Dayu dynasty did not hold imperial examinations, and the talent selection system was similar to the recommendation system of the Han and Jin dynasties. Noble families recommended individuals with moral character and reputation to serve in official positions. Simply put, it all depends on one's background. There is no hope for this path. The same goes for doing business. Without the support of the government, major clans, or gangs, it is impossible to do it. Moreover, he has no capital. As for inventing soap and sugar, it's not something that ordinary people like me can touch. Do you think Zhou Laowang has lost his head? A good plowing cow is about to be killed. Isn't it just to raise the dowry money? Upon hearing what his parents were discussing, Zhao Lin looked up and asked, "Killing plowing cows? The government doesn't allow it, right?" The ox in Zhou Laowang's family is old and still has many problems, so the government agreed. Zhao's father explained that perhaps he was thinking of his own situation and his expression was somewhat gloomy. "Killing cows?" Zhao Lin muttered, and suddenly a lightning bolt flashed through his mind. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Old Yellow Cattle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Old Yellow Cattle. As a traveler, Zhao Lin also awakened his golden finger when he came to this world. That is a 9-palace diagram printed in my mind, with a gold background and black lines, 3 horizontal and 3 vertical lines, and a total of 9 blank grids. Along with it came a strange memory. Zhao Lin learned from that memory that the 9 palaces diagram is called the spirit beast diagram, which can absorb the essence of beasts and acquire one of their abilities. Ability must be a strength that surpasses most animals, that is, a specialty. For example, by absorbing the soul of a dog, one can acquire its keen sense of smell, by absorbing the essence of a snake, one can obtain its heat tracking ability, and so on. And animals like chickens, ducks, and geese without special abilities are not suitable. In order to verify the authenticity of the golden finger, Zhao Lin immediately asked his brother to take him to the town to visit the butcher who slaughtered pigs after being able to get out of bed and walk around. Watching the butcher stab a sharp knife into the pig's chest, several silver lights rose up and converged into the pig's former appearance in the air. Zhao Lin was shocked in his heart and took a few steps back, afraid that he might accidentally suck the pig's soul into his body. This also brought Zhao Lin's mind to life. The common and distinctive animals in the village seemed to only be the earth dog, but the dog's nose cannot solve his current survival problem. Temporarily not considered. He wants to have the power of a bear, the speed of a leopard. However, these fierce beasts are hidden in the deep mountains and forests, and they have no ability to hunt them themselves. He pondered one day when he would go into the mountains with the hunters in the village to try his luck. Others would hunt wild beasts, and he would take the opportunity to absorb his soul. The idea is good, but now the mountains are covered in heavy snow and animals rarely go out for activities. Like black blind people, snakes, mice, hedgehogs, and others have long been looking for a place to go. Hunters are idle at home, and this matter has been delayed to this day. Now that it was heard that Zhou Laowang's family was going to kill cows, Zhao Lin had a clever idea and realized that the opportunity to open the spirit beast map had arrived. What are the strengths of cows? Of course, its strength is not inferior to that of a bear-tiger, and it has long-lasting endurance. If one possesses the power of a cow, then survival in troubled times provides some extra security. With this in mind, Zhao Lin put down his chopsticks and asked his father, "Dad, when will Zhou Laowang's family kill cows?" "Tomorrow morning, it is said that the butchers in the town were invited," Zhao's father replied. "I'll go see tomorrow." After dinner, the whole family goes to bed early before it gets dark. In ancient times, although people did not understand the law of heat, they also knew that lying in bed was not easy to get hungry, and poor families slept earlier. Zhao Lin lay on the bed in the outer room, unable to sleep horizontally or vertically. "I've been thinking in my mind, if I had the strength of a cow, what would I do in the future? You can work part-time in the town like your older brother, but it's slower to earn money. I heard there is a forest farm on the mountain that employs many long-term workers. Their work involves logging and transporting wood down the mountain. Although it is hard, they earn a lot of money. The only problem is that the forest farm is too far away from home, and Zhao Lin has to live and eat there. He is worried that his parents will not be taking care of him after he leaves home. In addition, there are 2 docks in the county town, and moving goods requires manpower, which is also an option." Thinking of this, Zhao Lin sneered at himself. While others had traveled through various forms of killing, his own concern was how to sell coolies. The key is to absorb the essence of the cow. How much strength can one have? The next morning, Zhao Lin got up to wash up and greeted his parents before leaving. Zhou Laowang's house is in the neighboring East Village, just cross a mountain range and you'll be there. His family is a famous wealthy family in Dongsuan, with over 20 acres of land and 4 sons, all of whom are at the age of marriage. Nowadays, there is a poor harvest in the field and the cows cannot be of great use. Therefore, they have to endure the pain and kill the cows to raise money to marry their sons. When Zhao Lin arrived at Dongsuan, it was just dawn and many people had already gathered around the village. In the agricultural era, people had an unusual affection for cows, and with strict restrictions from the government, many people lived for decades and it was still their first time watching someone kill a cow. Zhao Lin stood for a while and heard the sound of bells. Zhou Laowang and his 4 sons walked over with an old yellow ox. It can be seen that this old cow is being raised very well, with a large size, a sturdy physique, and meat on its belly. As he approached, Zhou Laowang wiped his flushed eyes and raised his voice, "Could you please move aside, fellow villagers?" The crowd retreated one after another, whispering. "Unfortunately, what a great cow. I've watched cows grow up since I was young, and I've even ridden them to play. I never expected it to be today. There's no way, for dowries." Zhou Laowang nodded to thank everyone, and then said to the bearded man beside him, "Could you please make Zhang Tu suffer less?" Zhang Tu patted his chest and confidently said, "Don't worry, Mr. Zhou. We promise not to let him suffer." After speaking, take out a black cloth and ask someone to help cover the cow's eyes, then grab a small hammer from behind. Zhao Lin understood. He had read in a book before that there was a central nervous system located in the middle of the horns of a cow. Once struck, the cow would faint. This slaughter method is more humane, and cows do not feel pain. The old scalper seemed to know his future fate, neither running nor earning, just big tears rolling down his eyes. This cow understands human nature. Butcher Zhang gave a thumbs up, took a deep breath, and slammed it down with a heavy hammer. The old scalper fell to the ground with a loud roar. Zhang Butcher took out his ox knife and chopped it around the cow's neck to release blood. Zheng Laowang and his sons took a basin to catch the cow's blood. Zhao Lin didn't pay attention to these things. He looked at the old cow without blinking. After a moment, scattered silver lights rose from the old cow's body. These silver lights converge and gradually take shape, eventually transforming into the shape of a cow above the corpse. This is the soul of a cow. The spirit beast image in Zhao Lin's mind seemed to smell the scent of the soul, rippling and trembling incessantly. He no longer hesitated, took a strong suction, and his soul crawled into his body through his breath. Boom! The silver light exploded, and the spirit beast map suddenly lit up. Zhao Lin felt like he was thrown into a wind tunnel with high-speed air flow. The muscles throughout the body are constantly being squeezed and stimulated, and there is a sense of tearing from the inside out. He tried his best to endure, but his body trembled uncontrollably. After an unknown amount of time, a silver light flashed on the spirit beast diagram, and the head of an old yellow ox appeared in the first grid. Got it. He took a deep breath and felt his whole body full of strength. Not far away, there is a green stone used for threshing millet, weighing 200 to 300 pounds. I walked over and grabbed it tightly, lifting it up with force. Qingtiao stone rises into the air. Great! Zhao Lin put down the stone, his mind stirred, and he waved his arm vigorously. Adults can lift heavy objects that are equivalent to their own weight, and for those who exercise regularly, it can increase by 30% to 50%. Zhao Lin is not yet of age, and it is impossible for him to lift such a heavy Qingtiao stone before today. And he felt like there was still room for strength, and with all his strength, he could still lift it by adding another 100 or 10 pounds. At this moment, a series of chicken crows rang out in the stomach. A strong sense of hunger surged in the body, like a storm, and every cell in the body opened its mouth crazily. I wish I could push aside the crowd and eat that cow raw. Zhao Lin knew that this was because the spirit beast diagram absorbed the essence of the old yellow ox, transforming its body and consuming energy. He suppressed the burning discomfort in his stomach and hurried towards home. Mom, is there anything to eat at home? When Zhao Lin arrived home, his whole body collapsed and his face turned white. Since his time traveling, he has never had a full meal, but being so hungry and uncomfortable is definitely the first time. Zhao's mother was startled by the situation and quickly went into the stove to take out 2 bran cakes. Zhao Lin ate the cake with water. The bran cake, which is usually difficult to swallow, now gives off a feeling of egg yolk crispy. He patted his mouth twice, feeling much worse, but much better than before. Zhao Mu said softly, "Are you hungry? I'll go cook now." "Mom, I'll help you." Zhao Lin originally didn't know how to cook, but fortunately he had memories of his predecessor and was very adept at doing farm work and household chores. When passing by the hall, Zhao Lin glanced inside and found that his father was not there. He asked, "Mom, where has Dad gone?" Zhao's mother started the stove and said, "Your father has nothing to do. Go out and pick up some firewood and come back. Dad's health is not good." "What kind of firewood are you going out to pick up in this cold weather?" "It's okay, picking firewood is not tiring." Zhao Lin silently sighed, feeling a strong impulse to change the current situation. "For myself and for my family." After a while, Dad came back with a bundle of firewood, and the food was also ready. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Wharf. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Wharf. I had roasted pine cones and elm skin noodles for lunch. Pine cones were picked up by Zhao Lin yesterday, while UP noodles are made by grinding corn and bran into flour, which is used to satisfy hunger. This type of bran has poor viscosity and cannot form clumps when mixed with water. It needs to be mixed with ground elm bark to make noodles. UP noodles are very hungry, but eating too much and going to the bathroom can be very painful. After eating the food, Zhao Lin's mind began to change in the spirit beast image. A faint white mist appeared in the first grid, like the water vapor on winter glass, gathering at the bottom of the grid. The white mist slowly released outward, and Zhao Lin felt a hot air flowing down from the top of his head. Wherever the heat flows through the neck, chest, arms, back, waist, and abdomen, vitality emerges. After a moment, the white mist was completely released, and the changes in the body also stopped. I didn't eat well, that's all I have. Zhao Lin was not surprised. According to the memory in his mind, white mist was the vitality extracted from food in the spirit beast diagram. The soul guides the vitality and promotes the evolution of the body. The soul of the old scalper guides these elemental energies to strengthen the physical body and enhance Zhao Lin's strength. If he absorbs the soul of a dog, then what has evolved is his olfactory system. However, his current strength is still far from that of a cow, and this is a gradual and continuous process. Mom and Dad, I want to find a job in the county town. Zhao Lin said solemnly to his parents. He wants to make money and eat meat. Only by eating well and fully can we provide enough vitality to the spirit beast diagram. Going to the county. Zhao's father and mother were both stunned at the words. Zhao's mother first reacted and said, the county town is too far away, and if you're not familiar with the place, you should go to the town. By the way, your brother has worked at the Jindahu family before. Find someone to talk to and see if he can succeed. Zhao Lin shook his head gently and said, Jindahu's family is hiring temporary workers, and they change people every 3 days. Moreover, I heard that there have been many people looking for work recently, and the wages are very low. There are also many people entering the city. Zhao's father took the conversation and said, from the surrounding villages, I knew 2 people were making a living in the city. One was a blacksmith, and the other was skilled in grinding tofu. Our family is engaged in farming and doesn't have any special skills. When we enter the city, we can only work hard. You only have 16 during the Chinese New Year, so I'm afraid you won't be able to compete with those strong men. Zhao Lin suddenly smiled and said, Mom and Dad, you still don't know. After a serious illness, my strength suddenly increased. In order to reassure the 2 elders, he decided to showcase his strength. Has your strength increased since you recovered from your illness? The 2 elders looked at each other. Don't believe it, you see. Zhao Lin walked into the yard, and his parents didn't know why, so they followed him out. There is a stone mill in the yard that grinds grains. Zhao Lin grabbed the bottom of the mill with one hand and lifted the mill over his head. The stone roller is not too heavy, but even the strong old men in the village may not be able to lift it casually with one hand. Zhao's father stared blankly and said, Why are you? Zhao's mother couldn't see clearly and turned her head to ask, What did Lin Air do? He lifted the stone roller with one hand. Put it down quickly, don't hurt it. Zhao Lin put down the stone roller and patted his palm. Mom and Dad, do you believe me now? Zhao's father nodded repeatedly. Okay, with such great strength, maybe my son can really find a job to do. Zhao Mu said, It's almost noon, why don't we go tomorrow? Zhao Lin took the gourd from the hanging rack, filled it with water and tied it around his waist. He said, Let me ask first. If we can reach an agreement soon, we can earn money a day earlier. Zhao's mother quickly returned to the house and took out a few bran cakes. Here, I'm hungry on the way. Zhao Lin's eyes lit up and he put the cake into his arms, then turned around and strode out. Do you know how to get there? This child, be careful on the way. The 2 elders reminded behind him, and Zhao Lin waved his hand and said, Mom and Dad, don't worry, wait for me at home with peace of mind. Qinghe County is more than 20 miles away from Sanja village. Last year, during the grain delivery, Zhao Lin and his brother entered the city once. He considered last night that although he could earn money in the town, to gain a deeper understanding of the world, he should still be in a bustling county town with many people. We rushed all the way and arrived at the east dock of the county town at around 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Qinghe County is surrounded by mountains and rivers, with excellent geographical conditions. It is also one of the largest counties in Yingzhou, and with surrounding villages and towns, its household registration exceeds 200,000. In winter, small rivers freeze, while large rivers remain unobstructed. There are many fishing boats, passenger ships, and commercial ships moored at the dock, with people flowing up and down, bustling and very lively. Some strong and busy men carrying goods caught Zhao Lin's attention. These people are all wearing white shoulders, black belts around their waist, and a sweatshirt, clearly with a unified organization. Zhao Lin observed for a while and confirmed that these people were the dock workers he was looking for, known as Lifu in this era. Big brother, who is the person in charge here? Zhao Lin grabbed a simple and honest-looking man and asked. Lifu was stunned for a moment, but without asking the reason, he looked towards the riverbank and said, "This dock is under the management of Lord Bang, and the one wearing a silk robe is the one." Zhao Lin followed his gaze and saw a wide chair on the shore, with a purple-faced man sitting on it. The big man crossed his legs and held a tea bowl in his hand, sipping slowly. Behind him stood two attendants, looking very stylish. Zhao Lin thanked him and walked straight to the big man. He crossed his hands and saluted, "Bang Yi, I want to work here. Do you think it's okay?" Bang Yi didn't even look at him directly, and snorted in his nostrils, "My subordinates are all strong men, and your physique is not good." The attendant standing behind him spoke in agreement and said, "We are all working hard here. You can't do it, go back." Zhao Lin is currently about 1.7 meters tall, which is not considered short in this era, but due to insufficient nutrition, his body is relatively thin. "I have strength," Zhao Lin said in a deep voice. Bang Yi waved his hand and impatiently said, "The child is boasting big. Go there, don't make a fuss here." Zhao Lin knew it was no use just talking, so he scanned around and saw a man pushing a unicycle past, filled with a load of coal balls. "Excuse me." Zhao Lin stopped Lifu, took the unicycle, grabbed the edge of the carriage with both hands, riveted it with enough force, and lifted the carriage with coal over his chest. Bang Yi could no longer calm down. With a tremble in his hand, tea soup splashed out and he was surprised, saying, Have you practiced martial arts?" Originally, there were warriors in this world. Zhao Lin's heart moved, but he replied, "I haven't practiced before, I was born. Natural divine power." Bang Yi frowned and said to himself, "What's your name and where do you come from?" Zhao Lin replied, "I, Zhao Lin, am a farmer at the foot of Baitu Mountain. During winter leisure, I stay at home and go to the city to find work, hoping that the Lord Bang will succeed." Seeing Zhao Lin's honest expression and not seeming to be hypocritical, Bang Yi couldn't determine his origin for a moment and pondered, "You have the strength to carry this bowl of rice." "Thank you very much, Mr. Bang." Zhao Lin breathed a sigh of relief and asked, "May I ask how the wages are calculated?" "The wages are settled on a daily basis and will be paid after work, but I need to pay half of the money." "Half of it? Don't think too much of it, these rules are the same everywhere. Besides, money is divided into black and white, and I don't have much money in my hands." "Then follow the rules." Zhao Lin heard from his father and brother about his experience of working outside and knew that the world was like this. He then continued to ask, "Can I do it now?" "Of course you can. Pay a deposit of 100 yuan first," said Bang Yi as he spread out his palm. I'm penniless." Zhao Lin patted himself and said he didn't have any money. "No money? What if you carry the goods and run away?" Bang Yi frowned and waved his hand, "Forget it, master. I have a kind heart and let someone take you to work first. But I will deduct 5 yuan from your salary every day for 20 days. After speaking, he called over a short and strong man and said, "Ma Jiu, today you lead him to work." The short and strong man responded in a muffled voice, gave Zhao Lin a white shoulder, and led him towards a grain transport ship. "Bang Yi, what's the origin of this kid? You don't even take a deposit." Zhao Lin left, and the attendants behind Lord Bang asked. Bang Yi remained silent, raised his hand, and the attendant quickly handed him a dry cigarette to help light it. "That car of coal. At least it weighs around 300 pounds. Bang Yi took a few puffs of dry tobacco and said calmly, "He said he hasn't practiced martial arts, and I don't quite believe him. Wang Dana from the Tiger Head Gang is known as a master of the power realm, and I don't think he's much stronger than him just because of his strength. In the area of East Dock, which ordinary commoner's leg doesn't shake in front of me, Lord Bang. What kind of demeanor is he? We wanderers in the martial arts world should show our tricks and try not to offend those who haven't figured out the details. To put it another way, even if it's like what he said, he's an ordinary farmer, why don't he work for me?" Speaking of which, Bang Yi puffed out his cigarette ring with pride. "He has a lot of strength and does a lot of work, shouldn't I draw more?" The attendant looked admiring and said, "Master Bang has great ideas." End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Baozi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Baozi. Zhao Lin and Ma Jiu boarded the ship, carried 2 bags of rice, and the supervisor gave him 2 bamboo sticks. The bamboo skewers are polished smooth, carved with patterns, and have 2 grooves. Zhao Lin only found out after asking that the bamboo skewers were used for salary calculation, with 2 grooves offsetting 2-1. Earn 2-1 per trip, 10 trips make 21. The work in the city is not easy to do, but it does earn money faster than farming. Zhao Lin thought to himself. The prices in this world are roughly equivalent to those in the 1990s. 1 penny can buy 2 pounds of brown rice or half a pound of pork, and small shops on the street can eat enough for 3 cents. However, this year's harvest is not good, grain prices have skyrocketed, and the currency has shrunk compared to previous years. Ma Go, how long have you been in the field of Donli Fu? A bag of rice weighed about 100 pounds, and Zhao Lin carried 2 bags without feeling tired, chatting casually with Ma Jiu. 2.5 years. Ma Jiu is a sullen gourd, never taking the initiative to speak, but always answering questions. Zhao Lin is a newcomer and knows he should read and listen more. Along the way, pay attention to the locations of inns, restaurants, markets, brothels, tea shops, and other shops on the street. He also deliberately observed the way pedestrians looked at him, some looked down upon, some dodged, some guarded, and some pitted a secure social bottom. Zhao Lin has gained a general understanding of the profession of Lifu. The 2 of them walked through the streets and alleys, delivering the rice to the grain shop and then returning to the dock to carry the rice, running back and forth several times. Ma Jiu couldn't help but say, "Brother Zhao, don't you know you're tired? Qinghe County is close to mountainous areas and often has to climb slopes and ridges. Lifu can only carry goods by hand and shoulder." Apart from carrying 2 bags of rice on the first trip, Ma Jiu could only carry 1 bag afterwards, which made him blush and his neck thick from exhaustion. Although Zhao Lin was also sweating profusely, he still seemed to have some strength left. Zhao Lin took a few breaths and said, "I'm still quite tired. There's nothing I can do, we can't cook at home, we can only do more." In fact, he is not tired at all, it's just that his shoulders are grinding and hurting. It has to be said that the spirit-beast diagram is indeed magical. After absorbing the essence of the old scalper, he transformed his body from the inside out. Not only does it possess extraordinary strength, but it also has long-lasting endurance. However, along with it, my appetite has also increased significantly. Zhao Lin will stop to eat something after moving the goods for a while. If it weren't for his mother bringing him pancakes before going out, he probably wouldn't have been able to hold on. After all, power cannot appear out of thin air, it is all energy converted from food. No matter how strong the golden finger is, it must follow the laws of physical energy. As the sun sets, the cargo on each ship has been loaded and unloaded, and the dock is gradually calming down. LVFA, 20 signatures. Miao C, 20.1 signatures. He Quanshui, 18 lots. The laborers gathered at the dock, queuing up for the accounting room of the master to calculate the day's remuneration. When it was Zhao Lin's turn, he handed over the 10 bamboo sticks in his hand to the accountant. Zhao Lin, 10 signatures. The accountant sang the number and gave him 5 yuan, and the deducted 5 yuan was used as a deposit. Zhao Lin rubbed his swollen and painful shoulder and thought to himself, it's not easy to earn this money. If it weren't for the spirit beast map, I wouldn't be able to hold on to a trip. Although there isn't much money, there is finally hope in life. After taking the money, Zhao Lin didn't rush home, but walked to the grain shop where the goods were delivered just now. I spent 4 yuan to buy 2 pounds of white noodles, 1 or 2 sesame oils, and a small bag of salt. The remaining 1 yuan will be kept for tomorrow. Meat buns, freshly made meat buns, 2%, with a large filling and thin skin. Zhao Lin came out of the grain shop and saw the owner of the nearby steamed bun shop shouting loudly. The cage drawer was opened, and the hot mist rose. The large and white buns made people drool. Zhao Lin gulped down his saliva, his mouth salivating wildly. He resisted the urge to walk over and buy 2, and then walked away. When you have money, come here and eat until you're done. Zhao Lin quickly crossed the street and ran towards Baitu Mountain outside the city. When he returned to the village, his parents were standing at the head of the village, looking towards the county town. Mom and Dad, I'm back. Zhao Lin shouted, alas, don't come out on such a cold day. This is your first time traveling on your own, and we are not at ease. Just stood for a while, it's not a problem. Upon hearing what his parents said, Zhao Lin was also helpless and advised them not to do so tomorrow. When he returned home, he took out rice, flour, oil and salt and briefly recounted his experience in the county town today. Did you find life so quickly? My son is promising. The 2 elders were both surprised and didn't expect their youngest son to find work so quickly. It's not easy to find a job in the city these days, but things are right in front of them, which makes them distrust. Zhao Lin took a look at the kitchen and saw that the stove was cold. Knowing that his parents hadn't eaten yet, he said, I'll cook tonight, let's eat white noodles. After speaking, pour the noodles into a basin and start boiling water. Use less noodles, your father and I are not hungry. My mother came into the house to help and scooped a large spoonful of elm bark powder from her noodle pocket, which she wanted to add to the basin. Zhao Lin reflexively stopped, Mom, don't add this, I dare not eat too much even if I add it. Okay, listen to you. Zhao's mother smiled and put the things back, then asked with concern, is my son tired? I'm not tired, I'm very strong now, Zhao Lin replied as he kneaded his face. Zhao Mu said, having great strength is a good thing, but don't be arrogant either. Follow the foreman's advice in everything, be polite to others, and be patient when faced with difficulties. Zhao Lin yawned, feeling that the words seemed familiar. Knead the noodles, wake up for a while, roll them open with a rolling pin, cut them into long strips, and put them into a pot. Boil and remove, sprinkle with minced garlic, add salt and sesame oil, pour in the noodle soup, and roll out the fragrant noodles by hand to make it ready. Zhao Lin had the most satisfying meal since his travels, and even had a clean meal with noodles and soup. The 2 elders couldn't help but praise him. Do more work tomorrow, you can eat meat tonight. Zhao Lin observed the spirit beast image in his mind, and the white mist in the first grid was noticeably more than during breakfast and lunch, which proves that the amount of vitality is indeed closely related to diet. After finishing his meal, he changed into the old clothes his brother had worn and took the clothes off to the yard for cleaning. Lin Air has been tired all day. Let's go back to the house and sleep. Mom, come and wash it. Zhao's mother snatched the clothes, then her body stiffened and tears suddenly flowed down her face. Originally, Zhao Lin was carrying bags and transporting goods, repeatedly sweating profusely, and his clothes were covered in a thick layer of white, hardened sweat stains. Although Zhao's mother couldn't see clearly, she knew what was going on with just a touch of her hand. What a sin, my son has suffered. If it's not hard, why don't you work without sweating? Zhao Lin didn't care and comforted his mother, saying, as long as you can have a full meal, it's not much to be tired. After saying these words, he was slightly surprised. If this matter were in his past life, he would definitely complain about injustice, but now he can take the initiative to shoulder the heavy burden of the family. It seems that I have really changed at this moment. Zhao Lin felt that he had truly accepted and integrated into this world. Dragging his tired body back into the room, he lay in bed with his clothes on. When Zhao Lin seemed to be asleep, big and white buns drifted through his mind. Baozi. There will be some sooner or later. He muttered in a daze. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Zhou Cannon Head. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 5. Zhou Cannon Head. Without the internet, TV, and mobile phone, Zhao Lin has developed a habit of going to bed and getting up early. The next morning, I woke up in the dark, quickly washed up, and took 2 bran cakes from the kitchen to go out. When he arrived at the dock, it had just started to light up and the laborers stood on the shore waiting to pick up the work. Zhao Lin looked around in the crowd but didn't see Ma Jiu's figure. He only found out after asking for help that Ma Jiu was off work today. Carrying bags at the dock requires a lot of physical exertion, and working every day is unbearable. Most people take 3 days off or 4 days off. Zhao Lin found the supervisor and told him about the situation. The supervisor immediately shouted into the crowd, "Zhou Pao Tu, take him today." "Sure, I'm feeling bored working alone." A lazy voice rang out, and a man in his 30s walked out of the crowd, with a red face, a medium-sized head, and a very thick skeleton. This person was originally handsome, but his left face was scratched by something and he had a huge scar. His eyes were half open and half closed, and his face was ferocious. Zhao Lin only glanced away and took the initiative to greet him, "Hello Brother Pao." "Brother Zhao." Zhou Pao Tu warmly patted Zhao Lin's arm and said, "I saw you yesterday, young man has strength. Could you please take care of me, Brother Pao?" The two of them had a few conversations and learned that the other party was also a villager from Baitu Mountain, but Zhou Pao Tu was in Baiqiao village and Zhao Lin was in Sanja village. The two villages were relatively far apart. Zhou Pao Tu is a hunter in the mountains. He has nothing to do in winter and comes to the dock to find work temporarily. After spring, he returns to his old business. Cannon Head refers to a hunter leader who is familiar with tracking wild animals, proficient in hunting techniques such as burying traps and trapping, and is a skilled hunter who can lead people to hunt. Zhou Pao Tu is very talkative, and when it comes to the local cultural landscape, he talks endlessly about his past hunting experiences. Zhao Lin happened to want to learn more about the world, so he took the initiative to talk to him. After a morning, the two of them were already very familiar. "Brother Zhao, why are you choking on mantu? Can you eat enough?" At noon, the two of them took advantage of the break to sit on the riverbank and eat. Zhao Lin ran out of 2 cakes on the way this morning, and bought 4 mantu with only 1 cent. Dry eating mantu is not very delicious. Fortunately, it is large and has enough materials. One hand cannot catch it. It is barely enough to fill the stomach. Unlike the mantu in the previous life, it shrinks seriously. If you grip it hard, you can squeeze it into a table tennis ball. Zhou Pao Tu brought 2 large pancakes with meat and vegetables on them, and while eating, he said, "In our profession, we can't do without oil and water in our stomachs, otherwise our bodies and bones won't be able to endure. You have plenty of strength, you earn no less than anyone else, so you don't have to worry about this little money, do you?" Zhao Lin said that of course he knows, isn't it that he hasn't made any money yet? I was in a hurry when I went out today. I forgot to bring the food my mother had prepared and only had 1 penny on me. It's okay, I'll eat it back tonight. Zhou Paotu took out a piece of cooked cured meat from his pocket, cut it with a small knife, and handed it to Zhao Lin. We don't know what's going on in your family, but we must definitely save on food, otherwise it will exhaust our body and it will be difficult to make up for it. Zhao Lin took it over and gratefully said, "Thank you, Brother Pao." I took a bite, my mouth was full of salty aroma, and there was a smell of pine branch smoking and baking. He chewed slowly, feeling delicious beyond words. Get out of the way. His mother doesn't have eyes. The two were eating when a group of people rushed across the road, each dressed in black, carrying a whistle and embroidered with 2 crossed axes on their chests. The leader was a middle-aged man wearing satin boots and brocade clothes, with a hint of arrogance on his lips. The vendors and laborers all avoided each other. Flower Hall Master, I haven't seen you in the past month, and my complexion is even better than before. Bang Yi greeted him, nodding and bowing in an authentic way. Zhao Lin curiously said, where did these people come from? Bang Yi is so polite. Zhou Paotu pouted and said, I'm from the Tiger Head Gang. The Tiger Head Gang. Zhao Lin glanced carefully and said in confusion, why is there an axe embroidered on my chest? Shouldn't I just embroider a tiger's head to adapt to the situation? Zhou Paotu sneered, their gang leader is from outside and has a very strange accent. Hu Fu doesn't distinguish between them, so he named his own gang the Axe Gang. As a result, others heard it as the Tiger Head Gang, and it spread like this. Bang Yi gave the chair to the man in brocade to sit on, served tea and water on the side, and took out a few silver bills from his arms to offer. Zhao Lin understood and was paying protection fees. He couldn't help but ask, Brother Pao, do the Tiger Head Gang have many people? They have a lot of influence. It's okay, people in numbers 1 or 200. That's not more than us, why is Bang Yi like a subordinate? Zhou Paotu smiled slightly and said, Brother, you don't know anything. Strength doesn't depend on the number of people, but on whose fist is big and whose fist is hard. The leader of the Tiger Head Gang is a triple power realm expert. Bang Yi has only practiced martial arts for a few days, so tying 10 together is not enough for him to fight. Triple power environment. Zhao Lin silently remembered it in his heart and then asked, is the Tiger Head Gang considered powerful in Qinghe County? Zhou Pao shook his head and said, that's not possible. Power-level martial artists can only show off their power in front of us ordinary people. Compared to the Qi-level masters in the county government and sects, they are just Xiaoxiami. Power realm, Qi realm. Zhao Lin thought to himself that this was indeed a world of martial arts, and the status of martial artists was very high. I just don't know how powerful a martial arts expert is. Is it to open a monument and crack rocks, to tear apart tigers and leopards, or to fly to heaven and flee to the earth, to cut off mountains and rivers? As soon as the members of the Tiger Head Gang left, Bang Ye's waist stiffened again, and his confident expression returned to his face. In the afternoon, the dock became busy again, and Zhao Lin occasionally gave Zhou Paotu a hand, which was a small reward. During the delivery, Zhao Lin saw a bookstore on the street and greeted Zhou Paotu before walking in. Reading is the fastest way to understand the world, especially in history books. The shop owner was taken aback when he saw 2 men wearing white shoulders coming in, and quickly walked out of the counter. I don't speak either, I follow along the whole time, it seems like I'm afraid they might steal books or cause damage. Zhao Lin didn't take it seriously and picked out a book to ask, how much does this history of the North and South cost? 81. What about this book, Do You Kai Guo Lu? 141. Zhao Lin muttered to himself, thinking to himself that he was poor and wealthy. What kind of poor person could afford such an expensive book? Or do different social classes have different understandings of poverty? 141 is enough to buy half a pig. A day passed, and when the work was over and the settlement was made, Zhao Lin fell into his hands with 20.51, which was the highest among all the powerful men. This has made the laborers envious, but no one is envious. After all, this industry sells coolies, and those who work hard get more. Although Zhao Lin has strength, he doesn't earn this money easily. There were several large blood blisters on both shoulders, soaking in sweat, and the taste was simply sour and refreshing. Holding a huge sum of money, Zhao Lin felt confident at last. He took advantage of the market not closing and bought 2 pounds of cheap, dusk vegetables, as well as some rice, noodles, and vegetable oil. There is also a piece of pig sitting on the ground. Sitting and squatting meat is the meat above the hind legs of a pig, which is fat and lean, suitable for satisfying cravings. He went home and cooked the meat, and the whole family had a delicious meal. During the meal, Zhao Lin noticed his mother quietly wiping away her tears while eating. He thought she was crying with joy and advised, "Mom, I can make money now. There will be more days like this in the future." Zhao's mother sighed and said, "I'm thinking about your older brother. He works hard outside, and I heard he's dirty and tired. He eats poorly, and I don't know how much he's suffered." Zhao Lin fell silent, recalling all the things before him. This elder brother, who was 10 years older than him, was indeed very kind to him. Especially in the days when he had just crossed over, he struggled on the brink of death. It was his older brother who tirelessly carried him on his back to seek medical treatment from a doctor, buy medicine and decoct medicine, that allowed him to survive. If it weren't for this serious illness that drained my family, my older brother wouldn't have been taken away because he couldn't pay the autumn harvest. The two are truly beloved relatives and friends, siblings. "Dad, when will my brother's hard labor last?" Zhao Lin asked. I haven't had a definite answer." Zhao's father looked worried and said, "In previous years, it was only 2 months at most. However, I heard that a new county magistrate has arrived in the county, and I don't know what the regulations are." Zhao Lin pondered for a moment and said, "I still have 20 or 30 when a day now. Can I save up for half a month and make up for the taxes I owe?" Zhao's father said, "I asked Qian Sanming from the town to help me inquire and see if we can find a way to release the person earlier. He said he will reply in a few days." Qian Sanming is a distant relative of the county chief clerk, and the mountain people do not know how to deal with the government. They always ask him to help with matchmaking and bridge any issues. Zhao Lin took out 10 yuan and placed it on the table. "Dad, Mom, you guys keep this money for now. Let's try to get my brother back as soon as possible." End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Xiong Xi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Xiong Xi. 10 days passed in a flash, and Zhao Lin's body was developing at a visible speed to the naked eye. Firstly, his height skyrocketed by nearly 3 centimeters, and his speed made him somewhat uncomfortable. Occasionally, he accidentally bumped into something while walking. The body is also much stronger, especially in the main body parts such as the waist, abdomen, chest, back, neck, etc. The muscles are stacked and angular, no longer as thin as before. Sleeping often causes cramps, and even pain wakes up in the middle of the night. Zhao Lin knows that this is due to rapid body growth and calcium deficiency. It is necessary to supplement meat, eggs, and milk in large quantities. He is relatively frugal with money, but willing to spend more on food. After each meal, the spirit beast diagram absorbs the energy from the food and releases heat to drive the body's evolution. Good physical fitness should be of great benefit to practicing martial arts. Knowing the existence of martial arts in this world, Zhao Lin also had thoughts on this aspect. As a traveler, which one doesn't have a martial arts dream or a cultivation dream? Especially in this place where the legal system is not sound and people rely on their strength to speak, martial arts is the capital for survival. There are still 8 empty squares in the spirit beast map, and Zhao Lin has no plans to absorb new animal spirits at the moment. Firstly, he currently has limited knowledge and may not make the right choice. If you absorb inappropriate beast spirits, you will waste one space in vain. Secondly, he is worried that the two spirits may exceed the physical burden and may not be as strong as the current specialized attack power. Excuse me, is this the Liuhe courtyard? In Xicheng, Qinghe County, a plainly dressed young man carrying a pig on his shoulder stood in front of the gate of a mansion, holding onto a copper ring to fasten the doorway. The young man was Zhao Lin. In order to make money as soon as possible, he specialized in tasks with heavy goods and long distances. Running one trip could earn a few more one. Because he was down to earth and didn't like to fuss, he quickly gained the trust of Bang Yi. He no longer sent people to keep an eye on him and could deliver the goods separately. What's up? The door opened and a young man with a yellow face walked out. The delivery to Liuhe courtyard on Qingchun Street, as stated on the order, is that your place? Zhao Lin took out a bill from his pocket and handed it over. The young man with a yellow face took a look and nodded, saying, "It's here. Put it in the yard." Zhao Lin walked in carrying a pig and curiously looked around. Ha ha. Winter has not yet passed, and more than a dozen young people are only wearing thin wrestling clothes, some even bareheaded, walking in the yard with horse steps, lifting stone locks, and exercising their strength. These are not that big of a deal. In his past life, martial artists also practiced like this, but when Zhao Lin looked at the people with black belts tied around their waists to the east, his eyes lit up. Some of them inserted their palms into the hot and smoking iron sand and rubbed them, while others hit their entire bodies with a hammer the size of a cantaloupe. There were two more people practicing their fists and feet, punching to the flesh. The strong wind was howling, and Zhao Lin felt a bit difficult to breathe as he passed by. Seeing is better than hearing, this is definitely true kung fu. May I ask how much tuition is for practicing martial arts with you? Zhao Lin put down the pig and wiped the sweat off his head, asking. The young man with a yellow face, seeing that he was doing this kind of hard work at a young age, not only did he not underestimate it, but he looked up and said in a gentle tone, "Our Liuhe sect has strict apprenticeship requirements, and we also need to consider our qualifications and character. They are apprentices, paying 2 taels of silver per month and 3 months' fees at a time." Zhao Lin took a cold breath and was surprised by this number. 6,001. He felt that the phrase, poor literature and rich martial arts, needed to be changed, as it was quite similar to rich literature and rich martial arts. What, you want to learn? The yellow-faced youth asked with a smile. Zhao Lin said calmly, "I want to learn." The young man with a yellow face nodded and said, "Your physique and skeleton are very good, and your qualifications should not be a problem. Then I won't continue." Zhao Lin thanked him and walked out of the courtyard, taking a soft breath. Such high tuition fees make people hesitate. At noon, Zhao Lin sat on the embankment, watching the boats anchored on the shore, holding 2 steamed buns and slowly eating them. Life has gradually improved, and the initial survival crisis has been resolved. I have also achieved my wish by eating steamed buns. The next step is to bring out the older brother, let the whole family have enough food and clothing, and wait for 1 or 2 years to save enough money to find a place to learn martial arts. Brother Zhao, take a break. Zhao Lin regained his senses and looked up to see Zhou Paotu walking towards him. It's okay, I'm in a daze. Let's go to the restaurant and have a drink. It's not easy for men to earn money, and most people want to split a penny into 2 halves. Only Zhou Paotu is extravagant and spends all his money in the 5 Organs Temple. But his older brother is single, and his whole family is not hungry when he eats alone, and no one says anything. Brother Pao, let's find someone else. I just ate it. Zhao Lin politely declined, thinking that it would be better to take on more orders if there was enough time. If someone else treats you to a meal, you have to find an opportunity to invite them back. Zhou Paotu squatted down and lowered his voice, "Brother, give me face. I have something to tell you. Zhao Lin was momentarily taken aback by his seriousness, unsure of what he was looking for. However, when everything was said, it was difficult to refuse anymore. So we walked into a roadside restaurant with him and found a quiet corner to sit down. Brother, we've known each other for a while now. Aren't you curious about the scar on my face? Zhou Paotu ordered a pot of wine, a plate of pork head, a plate of peanuts, and served the wine and vegetables. He took a sip of the wine and then smiled and asked Zhao Lindao. Zhao Lin stopped eating with just a few chopsticks and said, as the saying goes, if you don't expose a person's scar, you won't ask me. There's nothing I can't say, it was licked by a bear, Zhou Paotu said, touching his scar. Is Xiong a bear? It's true, but the bear is different from ordinary black blind people. It can walk upright on two legs and is even more fierce, commonly known as a human bear. Zhou Paotu picked up his glass and drank it all in one gulp. Zhao Lin remained silent and helped him pour the wine. Zhou Paotu continued, my family has been hunters for generations, and I have been hunting in the mountains with my father since we were 10 years old. When we were 17 years old, my father and I accidentally entered the Ma Soul Circle. Do you know what the Ma Soul Circle is? I don't know, Zhao Lin shook his head and said. Zhou Paotu explained to him. There is nothing like the same place in the deep mountains and forests, and there is nothing to compare with the direction. It's easy to get lost when you go to an unfamiliar place. We hunters call it the Ma Soul Circle. But my dad is an old hunter, and he told me to just observe the growth direction of the trees. The sunny side has dense leaves, and the direction is south, while the sparse side has sparse leaves, which is north. We found the right direction and headed outside the mountain, only to break into a bear's territory. According to common sense, bears are actually afraid of people and usually hide when they see them. But Xiong Bo is different. When he sees us, he pounces directly. My dad and I tried our best to escape, but we couldn't escape. Seeing that we couldn't escape, Dad pushed me hard and shouted for me to pretend to be dead. He was slapped by the bear's paw and broke his spine. Zhao Lin sympathized and said, your father saved your life. Yeah. Zhou Paotu pointed to the scar on his left cheek and said, I'm lying on the ground pretending to be dead. That bear doesn't know if I'm really dead or pretending to be dead. He came up and licked my face. At that time, I felt a steel brush brushing my face, causing excruciating pain. However, in order to survive, I gritted my teeth and held back, and my face became what it is now. Zhao Lin couldn't help but feel revered and said in his heart that he was a ruthless person, which he could hold back. However, on second thought, why did he tell himself this story? Zhou Paotu picked up his wine cup and drank it all in one gulp, with a deep-seated hatred in his eyes. He said word by word, this bear has killed my father, and it has caused me to be neither human nor ghost. I will kill it for revenge. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Laborer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Laborer. Zhao Lin had already guessed the result from inside and outside the words, but still asked, what happened later? Later. Zhou Pao chuckled twice in self-deprecation, this bear has tremendous strength. It has been crawling in the pine forest for years, and the resin has seeped into its fur. It's like wearing armor, unable to cut with a knife or pierce with a gun. I have led people to surround and kill it twice, only adding 2 small scars to its body, but damaging several people's hands. 20 years. This beast is still alive and well. The final sentence was gritted with teeth. Zhao Lin remained silent, feeling a faint premonition of what the other party wanted to say. Brother Zhao. Zhou Paotu stared straight at Zhao Lin and said, Brother Pao, I want to kill this bear. I hope my brother can help me. Me. Zhao Lin's face showed a surprised expression, Brother Pao looks up to me too much. I don't know martial arts, and I haven't hunted before. How can I help you? Zhou Paotu shook his head and said, "Brother, you're so humble. You're as strong as a cow. Who wouldn't know on the dock? You can easily lift the stone pier that two people can't move, and the warriors I've seen may not be as good as you. I have an ancestral iron gun at home. If my brother comes, he will definitely be able to pierce through the armor of that bear's paw. Charge into battle with Xiong Bo." Zhao Lin's face slightly changed. Zhou Paotu reached out and pressed his shoulder with a sincere tone, "Brother, if you come to the dock to carry bags at a young age, your family must be short of money. I believe you also know that working so hard can't earn much money in a year, and many people are physically exhausted in less than 3 years. A bear has 3 treasures on its body: bear bile, bear skin, and bear paws. They are all valuable goods that can be sold for at least tens of taels. As long as you kill this bear, you can earn more money than carrying a 3-year bag. How about it? Let's have a fight with my brother. If we don't open the business for 3 years, we'll eat it for 3 years." Zhao Lin felt no waves in his heart and calmly said, "Brother Pao, let me be frank. I'm afraid of death. Lack of money comes from lack of money. No matter how big the business is, one must have a life flower. Moreover, one has a spirit beast map and gradually accumulates strength, so there is no need to fight wild beasts for life." Zhou Paotu still advised, "Brother, you don't know anything. I came up with a way to kill Xiong Ba, it's absolutely foolproof." Zhao Lin sneered in his heart, "If you really want to be foolproof, why bother finding yourself? Brother Pao, thank you very much for your care in recent days. I also understand your feelings of revenge, but this matter is really beyond our control. You can go to Sanja village to inquire. I have sick parents who are unable to move around, and my older brother has been arrested for hard labor. The whole family is pointing their finger at me. I can't take this risk." After speaking, he stood up, clasped his fists in both hands, and strode out of the restaurant. In the following 2 days, Zhou Paotu kept swaying in front of Zhao Lin intentionally or unintentionally, and Zhao Lin pretended not to see him. He will definitely not participate in the matter of dying. But he has some interest in Xiong Bo. Xiong Bei is a different species among bears, fierce and aggressive, able to walk upright. There is a saying that 1 bear tops 3 bears. The legendary beasts from previous lives do indeed exist in this world. There is a piece of information about the memory of the spirit beast diagram. The higher the level of the beast, the greater the benefit to the body after absorbing the essence and soul. Xiong Bo is an enhanced version of black bear, and its level is definitely not low. However, Xiong Bo's talent and expertise are also strength, which is the same as the old scalpers he absorbed, and it is not suitable to absorb them again. After all, the spirit beast map only has 9 squares, each one is very precious. When you have strength in the future, you can consider absorbing the souls of other exotic beasts. After a busy day, Zhao Lin returned home and saw his mother weeping in front of the hall. His father crouched on the threshold, smoking his cigarette bag one after another. "Dad, Mom, what's wrong?" Zhao Lin realized that something had happened at home, and his intuition may be related to his brother's situation. Sure enough, Zhao's father said with a gloomy expression, "I have news about your brother's matter." Qian Sanming said that the county government is unwilling to release him, so don't think about it for 3 to 5 months. So long. Zhao Lin was surprised and said, "Didn't it take at most 2 months in previous years?" Zhao's father sighed and said, "The original county magistrate confiscated enough autumn grain and was dismissed from his position. The new county magistrate took office 3 times and planned to build a dam in Fengtang to prevent another drought next year. The construction of the dam is short of manpower, and the captured soldiers will not be released or visited until the completion of the project. Even the prisoners in the prison have been pulled to dig the soil." Zhao's mother sobbed and said, "With the prisoner, is there still life to come out of?" Zhao Lin's heart sank and his eyebrows twisted together. Building a dam is a big project. Fengtang is located in the west of Qinghe County, a mountain basin near the upper reaches of the Xiong River in Baitu Mountain. He judged that the new county magistrate was likely interested in digging a river channel to divert the water from the Xiong River. This is equivalent to building Fengtang into a reservoir. If a drought occurs next year, the water in the reservoir will be used to irrigate the surrounding fields. The policy is good, but the means are ruthless. Yang Guang's construction of the Beijing-Hangzhou Grand Canal has exhausted millions of laborers, and this reservoir requires digging a long section of the river. Although the two cannot be compared in terms of engineering quantity, how many people are there in the county? The hard labor of this era has no humanity at all. As long as it is not used for death, it is used towards death. Even the first half of the sentence can be omitted, and using it to death is not a big deal. As expected, he is the county magistrate who broke down his family and the governor who destroyed his family. Zhao Lin stabilized his mind and asked, "Dad, have you ever asked if there's a way to catch people?" Zhao's father hurriedly said, "Yes, I asked along with several other families." Qian Sanming said there was really no way. Zhao Lin pondered for a moment and said, "Mom and Dad, don't worry for now. I know someone from the dock who has connections. I'll ask him tomorrow, maybe we can succeed." "Are you serious?" said the two elders in unison. Zhao Lin nodded. In order to appease his parents, he can only use words to stabilize them first. The second old man believed it to be true, and his face improved a bit. He advised, "Then when you look for someone tomorrow, don't be empty-handed and bring some gifts over." Zhao Lin nodded and thought to himself that he would go and ask Sanming for change tomorrow. There are many things in the yamen that cannot be clearly stated. My father is an honest farmer and may not be able to hear the implied meaning of others. The next day, Zhao Lin woke up early as usual and went out. Not far from the village, he turned towards Lisha town. There are 7 towns in Qinghe County, and Lisha town is the smallest one, located near the southern foot of Baitu Mountain and not far from Sanja village. Zhao Lin came to Lisha town and didn't go directly to Qian Sanming's house. Instead, he waited for the sun to rise and took a walk around the market. Qian Sanming is notorious for being afraid of his wife. It's better to give things to his wife than to him. Zhao Lin gritted his teeth and spent 41 buying 2 pieces of floral cloth from a cloth shop. Qian Sanming's family lives in the south of the town, with a vermilion-painted gate and a pair of town stone drums in front of it. This person originally came from a poor background and lived a life without stopping. 2 years ago, I somehow got to know the county chief and became relatives. It's only been 3 or 9 days since I started wearing single clothes. I'm trembling. Zhao Lin knocked on the door a few times, and someone in the yard responded, "Who is this early?" "Brother Qian, it's me, Zhao Lin from Sanja village, and my father is Zhao Baotian." The courtyard door opened, and a middle-aged man with a mustache poked his head out from the crack in the door. "Are you Zhao Shan's brother?" "Yes," Brother Qian remembered, Zhao Lin said with a smile. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. 10 Tales of Silver. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 10 Tales of Silver. Qian Sanming saw Zhao Lin holding something in his hand with a puzzled expression on his face. "You're here to inquire about your brother, right? Your father came yesterday." Zhao Lin smiled and said, "Let's not talk about this for now. I found a job in the county town and made some money. Thank you, big brother and sister. Law, for taking care of my family in the past 2 years. I am here to visit. This is the floral cloth I bought for my sister. Law. It looks like spring is coming, so it's perfect to make 2 sets of clothes." Speaking of the last sentence, Zhao Lin deliberately raised his voice. Qian Sanming declined and said, "Why are you giving things to the villagers? Who is it?" At this moment, a slightly chubby woman walked to the entrance of the courtyard and saw the floral cloth in Zhao Lin's hand. Her eyes lit up. "Is it Zhao Lin?" It's been a year since I last saw him. He's grown so tall. Xian Lao-san, why do you have someone stand outside and talk? Hello sister. Law. Zhao Lin passed the money and handed the things directly to the woman. The woman pondered for a moment and said with a smile, come in quickly, it's cold outside. Xian Sanming had no choice but to close the door and follow in. You are chatting slowly. The woman served tea and flashed back to the room. As soon as he sat down, Zhao Lin spoke up and said, Brother Qian, please make up for the autumn food now. Can you let my brother out? Qian Sanming picked up his teacup and took a sip, shook his head gently, and said, getting in is one thing, bringing out people is another. You should have heard about the new county magistrate. This matter is not easy to handle. Zhao Lin heard him say it was difficult to handle, not impossible. He understood in his heart and directly asked, is it enough money to release people? Xian Sanming paused in his hand and turned his head to look at him. Brother Zhao, I won't hide anything from you. Apart from the serious crime of murder and arson, there is nothing in the Yamen that cannot be accomplished with money. There is actually a solution, but you can't afford the money you spent, that's why I told your father I can't do it. It's not intentional deception. Zhao Lin asked, county officials are not allowed to release people. How can we clear the way specifically? Xian Sanming smiled slightly and said, the county magistrate has issued a death order, but what if it is a person who is seriously ill and will die? The left and right cannot work, and dying inside and outside is very different. Prisoners die as soon as they die, and hard labor is also a way to govern the people. County officials cannot go too far and always send people out to see their families for the last time. Zhao Lin understood and said straightforwardly, Brother Qian, can you give me a number? How much money can we use to operate this matter? Xian Sanming extended a fist and said, 10 taels of silver. Zhao Lin's eyebrows twitched fiercely, so much. Xian Sanming said, I can only say that your brother is unlucky. The things he used to be able to accomplish for 1 or 2 silver have increased tenfold this year. Zhao Lin remained silent for a moment and asked, who did these silver go to? Xian Sanming also comes from a poor background and has a good reputation in the countryside, but he must inquire about the whereabouts of so much money. Escort, chief officials, clerks, and chief clerks. They all need to take care of everyone up and down, after all, they also have connections. Xian Sanming believed that Zhao Lin couldn't take out the money, but since he received the gift, he patiently explained the matter clearly. With money, people must be able to come out, right? That's for sure. If you don't take care of receiving money, who will still send money to the Yamen in the future? Thank you very much, Brother Qian. Let me gather enough money to come and visit again. Zhao Lin stood up to bid farewell. It's easy to say, easy to say. Xian Sanming only ignored his last words. Can you spare 10 taels of silver? Why didn't you pay the autumn grain back then? Brother Zhao, have you been working at the dock for half a month? Why don't you take a day off and hurry to earn money to marry a wife? Young man, your health is important. When you reach uncle's age, you will understand. When Zhao Lin arrived at the dock, near noon, several familiar drivers joked. I think you guys are also quite free, why don't you go home and rest? Zhao Lin felt something in his heart and reluctantly forced out a smile to respond. Stop grinding your lips, the wooden boat is here, the supervisor shouted loudly. The laborers rushed to the shore in groups of 5 or 6, carrying neatly stacked logs onto the ship. Brother Zhao, let's go. A few of the people who just chatted with Zhao Lin pulled him to transport wood. Zhao Lin is honest in his work and does not cheat or play tricks. When encountering such a multi-person cooperative task, his followers love to work with him. After half an hour of busyness, Zhao Lin loaded the wooden boat and set off. Looking at the small handful of bamboo sticks in his hand, he thought to himself, if we want to save 10 taels of silver at this speed, we may have to wait for a monkey year and a horse month. Although it's hard to work as a laborer, compared to my older brother, it's much easier. The food and accommodation conditions over there are extremely poor. In case of an illness or something, it could result in human death. Thinking of the eager gaze from his parents, Zhao Lin gritted his teeth and the shadow of Zhou Paotu flashed before his eyes. It seems like we have to do it even if we don't do it. Zhao Lin decided to clarify the matter of killing Xiongbo, and if there was anything he could do, he would accept the invitation from Zhou Paotu. He didn't directly go to find Zhou Paotu, after all, he just rejected the other person a few days ago. Changing his tone now will make people feel that he is capricious and undervalued. Zhao Lin looked around the dock and saw Zhou Paotu squatting not far away, gnawing on a pancake, his eyes occasionally drifting over. This guy hasn't given up yet. Zhao Lin pretended not to see it and walked to the street to buy a stack of pancakes and 2 large pieces of salted meat. Returning to his original position, he quickly finished his food, patted his belly, and leaned against the stone pier to take a nap. In the corner of his eye, he noticed that Zhou Paotu was quietly moving towards this side. Brother Pao. As Zhou Pao's head moved closer and closer, Zhao Lin suddenly opened his eyes and said, "Hey, so coincidentally, Brother Zhao is also here." Zhou Paotu made a surprised expression, as if he had just seen Zhao Lin. Zhao Lin was almost amused by his poor acting skills, so he suppressed his laughter and asked, "Didn't Brother Pao want to kill that bear? Why are you still working at the dock? Isn't it that I haven't found a suitable person, otherwise I wouldn't be lazy to carry big bags every day as a cannon head?" Zhou Paotu saw that he didn't shy away and immediately poured out a lot of bitterness. Zhao Lin smiled and said, "There are so many hunters in the mountains, how could there be no helper? They missed 2 rounds of hunting, and they were all scared to death. Not many people were willing to take another adventure. Moreover, that bear is covered in armor and cannot be of great use in large numbers. There must be someone with great strength to wield a gun." Zhou Paotu said as his eyes turned to Zhao Lin. Zhao Lin avoided his gaze and asked, "Why don't you ask martial artists for help? Didn't you say there are experts in the sect martial arts school?" "Hey, I can't please anyone." Zhou Paotu shook his head like a tambourine and said, "Even if I have a way, even if I hire experts to help, the money Xiongbo sells may not be worth the reward. Am I just wasting my time? So besides avenging your father, you also want money." Zhao Lin thought to himself and changed the topic. "Last time you told me that bears have 3 treasures, how much can they sell for in total?" Upon hearing the news, Zhou Paotu hurriedly said, "The market price is 20 taels of bear skin and 30 taels of bear paw. The quality of bear bile depends on its quality. There are gold bile, iron bile, and cauliflower bile. The better the quality, the higher the price. How can there be 1 or 2 taels? Xiongbai is an anomaly among bears, and its price can still rise." Zhao Lin thought for a moment and asked, "How many people are there now?" After listening, Zhou Baotu's eyes lit up and he said, 3 of them, the other 2 are experts in archery and have excellent skills." Zhao Lin remained silent for a long time after listening, and Zhou Paotu nervously stared at him. "I want to know, how do I divide the money from hitting Xiongbo?" After a long time, Zhao Lin finally said. Zhou Baotu's expression became serious as he said, "I started with it. I know where Xiongbai is hiding, and according to the rules of the industry, I'll get 30%. Zhao brothers started with it, and they'll get a total of 30%. The remaining 10% depends on performance, and whoever performs well will be given to them. How about that?" Zhao Lin silently estimated that based on a minimum of 60 taels, he could also get 18 taels himself. These money not only saved my elder brother, but also enough to pay for 3 months of martial arts education, which made me very tempted. Zhou Paotu observed his words and expressions, thinking that Zhao Lin would immediately agree, but he heard him say, "Didn't you say you have a foolproof way? What method is it?" Zhou Paotu hesitated for a moment and smiled, I'm really cautious. Since that's the case, let's find a secluded place and listen to me speak slowly. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Spear Style. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 9 Spear Style. As long as we plan properly, we not only have a good chance of winning, but also a big chance. The two of them arrived at the restaurant where they had been drinking last time and ordered a pot of tea and a plate of melon seeds. Zhou Paotu saw no one on either side and whispered in a low voice. Zhao Lin asked, "What exactly should we do? What season is it now?" Zhou Paotu asked in response. Zhao Lin glanced at him unexpectedly and said, "Winter." "What do bears do in winter?" "Hibernation." Zhao Lin was taken aback and suddenly said, "Do you know where it hibernates and wants to ambush?" Zhou Baotu's face was full of smiles and he said, "Is it possible to still have a fair fight with it? We hunters call bear hibernation squatting barn, and killing hibernating bears is called killing barn. Over the years, I have been observing the whereabouts of that bear and have a clear understanding of where it squats. If Zhao Lin wants to launch a surprise attack, the difficulty will be reduced by at least half." His thinking continued to diverge, and he even thought of various methods such as burning and fumigating with poisonous gas. "This is just one of them." Zhou Paotu continued, "This bear has lived for almost 40 years, which is equivalent to the age of 70 or 80 of us people. It is old and weak, and its strength has greatly decreased. This is the second reason. This autumn, it had a fight with another monster and suffered a serious injury to its left leg. We have another chance of winning, and that's the third." At this point, Zhou Paotu looked at Zhao Lin with a burning gaze and said, "So, is this fate?" Zhao Lin thought to himself that this guy looked carefree, but his mind was meticulous. After careful consideration, he finally said, "Okay, I'll join." Upon hearing this, Zhou Paotu was overjoyed and excitedly grabbed his hand. "Great! Let's go out of the city and plan carefully," he said. Zhao Lin withdrew his hand calmly and said, "Why don't you go back to the dock first?" Zhou Paotu nodded and said, "Our brothers are about to do big things. What else are we carrying? It's not very interesting to earn those 3 melons and 2 dates." Zhao Lin thought about it and said, "Then I'll go talk to Lord Bang." Zhou Paotu puzzled and said, "Say hello to the supervisor, pat your butt and leave." "What are you doing with Mr. Bang?" Zhao Lin shook his head and said, "Mr. Bang gave me a bite to eat during my most difficult time. I have to tell him in person." Zhou Paotu had no choice but to go find Bang Yi with him. "Bang Yi, there are some trivial matters in Xiaoka's family that he cannot continue working at the dock. He wants to resign from this job." Zhao Lin came to the riverbank and saluted Bang Yi, who was drinking tea. Zhou Paotu leaned forward and smiled, "Bang Yi, I'm the same." "Damn it, you're the same." Bang Yi laughed and cursed, then turned to look at Zhao Lin and said, "Why, do you think you're earning less here?" Zhao Lin said in a deep voice, "Indeed, there is something at home." Bang Yi nodded and didn't ask any more questions before calling the accounting room over. "Let's refund their deposit," he said. "Thank you very much, Mr. Bang," Zhao Lin and Zhou Paotu said in unison. "Hee, the sun is coming out from the west today." Zhao Lin and Zhou Paotu left the city and headed straight towards Baitu Mountain. Zhou Paotu threw up the money bag in his hand and then caught it, enjoying it tirelessly. Zhao Lin smiled and said, "This is our own deposit. Why are you happy to get it back?" Zhou Paotu shook his head and said, "Brother, you don't know anything. For someone like us who hasn't worked for a full year, it would be great if you could refund half of the deposit. Today, you can refund all of it to us." Zhao Lin said, "Is Mr. Bang in a good mood today?" Zhou Paotu glanced at him diagonally and said, "I'm afraid not. I think it's mostly because of you." Zhao Lin remained silent and felt that it was possible that Bang Yi believed he had practiced martial arts before, which was why he was more accommodating and determined to learn martial arts. It was still early, and the two of them arrived at Baiqiao village, where Zhou Baozi's family lived. That's it here. Zhou Baozi pointed at a large and dilapidated stone house and said. After entering the door, he asked Zhao Lin to wait in the yard and ran into the house himself. In no time, Zhou Baozi came out holding a large iron gun and threw it horizontally. Keep going. Zhao Lin reached out to catch it, feeling that the iron gun was extremely heavy, weighing about 100 pounds, similar to the rice bags on the dock. The gun is over 2 meters long, completely black in color, and the back half is carved with cloud patterns to prevent detachment. Good gun. Zhao Lin gave a thumbs up, recalling the actions from TV and movies in his mind, and stepped forward with a single shot. Ah, it seems that you haven't practiced before. Zhou Baozi walked to the wall and grabbed a stick that was used to lift the door. He held it with both hands, one in front and the other behind, and lifted one foot to lightly touch the ground. When using a gun, one should pay attention to the word "sure," meaning posture, with the foot in front and the back solid. The gun should be placed on the side of the body, and one should think of oneself as a bow. When exerting force, one should use the back of the foot to push the ground, and use the back of the waist to push forward with both arms. After speaking, he took a sudden step out, exerted force on his hind legs, twisted his upper body into a straight line, and the wooden stick thrust out, making a buzzing sound. Have you practiced martial arts before? Zhao Lin exclaimed in surprise. This is called the spear style. Zhou Baozi explained, casually talking about the origin of gun moves. Originally, the ancestor of the Zhou family was the sentry leader guarding the beacon tower on Baitu Mountain. After retiring from his armor and returning to the fields, he stayed in the mountains to hunt, which has been passed down from generation to generation. In his generation, he is the 9th generation. The first generation ancestors were experts in the military, and this iron gun was passed down from that time on. Zhao Lin curiously said, since my ancestors are skilled in martial arts, why haven't we passed it on to our descendants? Zhou Baozi waved a stick flower in his hand and said with a bitter smile, it's not that simple. The first realm of martial arts is the power realm, which not only requires coordination with breathing techniques, but also specialized medicinal bathing formulas. Without medication to assist in refining the body, it's difficult to get started. The recipe is in the hands of the court, and even if one's martial arts are high, they can't pass on the herbal formula to others without knowing it. This is true in the military, and so is the martial arts school. So I can only practice some fist and foot movements, not internal skills, and my strength is not much stronger than that of an ordinary person. I have difficulty holding the iron gun in your hand, let alone using it to pull it out. Zhao Lin was quite surprised when he first heard about the ways of learning martial arts, so he stopped talking and practiced the movements demonstrated by Zhou Baozi just now. Yes, pay attention to the coordination between the waist, hips, and arms. Hold your hands steady, shoot quickly, keep your eyes straight ahead, and tie a line with your gun. Although Zhou Baozi does not know internal skills, he has been dancing with guns and sticks since childhood, and his basic skills are quite solid. He occasionally points out Zhao Lin's shortcomings. Under his guidance, Zhao Lin basically mastered the essentials of exerting force in less than an hour, and the rest was to continuously practice. Zhou Baozi nodded repeatedly and said, once you have enough strength, the next step is to practice your head accurately. After practicing for a while, Zhao Lin stood his iron spear in front of him and wiped the sweat off his head, saying, when will we go into the mountain to kill the bear? Zhou Baozi smiled and said, don't worry, you have mastered your marksmanship. We have a better grasp, and there are also some things to prepare for. The bear hasn't eaten anything all winter, and it's the weakest time. Let's starve it for a few more days before spring starts. Good idea. Zhao Lin sincerely praised and thought to himself, it's despicable enough. It's only safe to work with someone with such intelligence. Practice shooting until the sky is getting dark, and the two go back to the house to cook. Although Zhou Baozi's home is messy and shabby, the stored ingredients are quite abundant. Zhao Lin probably spent all his money on eating. The two of them started the stove and cooked a fire, then filled it with rice and deftly cooked 4 hot dishes. Stir-fried wild duck eggs with mountain fungus, stewed chicken with mushrooms, boiled vermicelli with sliced pork and cabbage, and blood sausage tofu. Taking out 2 pickled cucumbers from the pickled vegetable jar and pairing them with a pot of hot wine, this dinner can be described as luxurious. After finishing a pot of rice, the two of them swept away all the dishes. Zhao Lin felt his blood bar suddenly fill the grid, and the grid of the spirit beast and old yellow bull was filled with white mist. Adequate vitality brings a continuous stream of power to the body, and subtle changes occur in the muscles, bones, and skin membranes of the whole body, making it more resilient and powerful. It seems that only with sufficient energy supply can the spirit beast diagram truly exert its power. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Hunting Plan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Hunting Plan. Tomorrow you come over to practice shooting, and I'll introduce you to the 2 hunters who came into the mountain with us. When Zhao Lin was about to leave, Zhou Paotu told him. No problem, how are the 2 of them? Zhao Lin asked. Teamwork and relationships between members are important, so it's best not to encounter difficult situations. Don't worry, they are all real people, Zhou Paotu said confidently, patting his chest. Zhao Lin didn't say anything more. Before it got dark, he climbed several mountains and took a shortcut back to Sanja village. Mom and Dad, my brother's situation is now clear. Zhao Lin said as soon as he entered the door. So fast. What did they say? Dad put down his cigarette bag and Mom ran out of the stove. That person's cousin is a Stone Trench official in the Yamen, in charge of this area. He said that if he reports a serious illness, he can send my brother out. In order to reassure his parents, Zhao Lin decided not to reveal the truth and shamelessly told the prefabricated lies. Then you have to give money, how much? Zhao's father asked with some concern. Zhao Lin said, I haven't mentioned it yet, but this time finding the right way shouldn't cost much money. Zhao's father went back to the house and dug out a wooden box from under the bed, took it out and handed it to Zhao Lin. You saved this money for me, can you see enough? Zhao Lin pushed the box back and said, don't rush to pay for now. It will take some time to clear the relationship. It's estimated that people can release it in 10.5 days. The boss can come out now. Great. Lao's eyes were filled with tears and excitement. The next day, Zhao Lin went out to the town to buy some food such as grain, oil, meat, and eggs, and carried them to Zhou Baotu's house. Before taking action, he will always eat and live at Zhou Baotu's house, and cannot just use other people's food. Brother Zhao is too far-sighted. I don't lack anything here, he. Zhou Paotu spoke politely, but the expression on his face indicated that he was very satisfied with Zhao Lin's move. It's important to consider one's character when it comes to small matters. Collaborate with people like this and feel at ease. Zhao Lin ate something to cushion his stomach, then stretched his hands and feet in the yard to warm up and prepare to practice shooting later. I'll go find those 2. Zhou Paotu gave an explanation and left the door. Not long after, there was a sound of conversation outside the courtyard, occasionally mixed with the cheerful laughter of Zhou Paotu. Jiya. Zhou Pao led 2 men with bows and arrows on their backs and hunting knives on their waists as they walked in. Brother Pao, Zhao Lin walked forward and greeted him. Zhou Paotu let out a and introduced both sides to each other. The 2 people who came were both hunters from Baiqiao village, one named Zhu Dachuan and the other named Liang Song. The 2 were cousins. Zhu Dachuan is around 40 years old, tall and nearly half a head taller than Zhao Lin. He has a rough appearance and a dark beard on his chin. Liang Song is much younger, looking less than 20 years old, with a Chinese-style face and thick eyebrows, giving off a feeling of youthful maturity. Zhao Lin said, Brother Liang, I wish you all the best. He has just turned 16 and has to call anyone his brother. Nice to meet you, Liang Song responded politely. Zhu Dachuan, on the other hand, looked surprised and turned to Zhou Pao too, saying, he's the expert you invited. Are you still taking 30%? His tone was very dissatisfied. Zhou Pao too didn't answer and asked Zhao Lin with a smile, brother, why don't you practice shooting? Zhao Lin understood and knew he wanted to show his strength. He picked up the iron gun on the ground, took a few steps back, and suddenly shouted loudly, kill. Liang Song and Zhu Dachuan could only feel the sharp sound of breaking through the air in their ears, their figures flickering and their iron guns turning into a black light. When he fixed his gaze and looked again, Zhao Linren was already 7 steps away, with a 110-pound iron gun firmly held in his chest. The shock on their faces was hard to conceal. They had known Zhou Pao Tu for many years and had played with this iron gun, so they naturally knew its weight. They cannot lift heavy weights like Zhao Lin, no matter what. Zhou Pao Tu chuckled and said, anyway, no matter what kind of beast it is, if it gets shot, I'm afraid it will also be unbearable. Good skills. Zhu Dachuan thumbed up and praised. Zhao Lin punched in the void, without any smug expression on his face. There's nothing to be proud of. Being able to have such great strength all depends on one's golden fingers. Whether it's experience or mind, they may not necessarily be stronger than others. It's better to maintain a humble and cautious attitude. Zhou Pao Tu, Liang Song, and Zhu Dachuan set up a low table in the yard, lit a fire basin, and sat together to discuss the matter of killing the warehouse. The discussion among the 3 people was lively, with each word spoken by them. When Zhao Lin is tired from practicing, he listens to the sidelines for a while without interrupting. After all, he is a professional. He wants to learn some hunting experience, maybe he can use it in the future. The spirit beast diagram obtains abilities by absorbing the essence of beasts, so one cannot avoid dealing with wild or even exotic beasts in the future. Mastering more hunting methods is beneficial and harmless. After just 2 days, Zhao Lin's spear style became more and more proficient. Gunsmanship is difficult to practice. Although the stabbing style only has 1 move, it requires extremely high body and step techniques, and physical and mental coordination is consistent. Otherwise, a tiny difference can lead to 1,000 miles of error. Zhao Lin became more and more addicted as he practiced, constantly thinking about how to accumulate energy, how to adjust his breathing, and even unconsciously pondering the movements of his gun while eating and sleeping. The discussion on Zhou Baotu's side is also about the same. The rough plan is for Zhao Lin to use an iron gun to kill, and when Xiong Bei comes out of the hole, Zhou Pao and his team will use bows and arrows and pre-arranged large animal clips for a second strike. Their goal is not to directly kill the bear, but to reduce its mobility. The strategy is to fight and retreat, not to entangle with the bear, and wait for it to run out of strength before waiting for an opportunity to move. There is a key point here. All weapons are poisoned to enhance their killing power, and before awakening the bear's bottom, a large number of poisonous insects are thrown into the hole to weaken its strength as much as possible. Zhou Pao Tu took a sip of tea and said to Zhao Lin, Brother Zhao must give Xiong Bu a hard blow before he wakes up, otherwise no matter how many measures are taken later, it will be useless. We only have one way to escape. Zhao Lin nodded in agreement and asked, can you first throw some toxic and flammable substances into the hole and smoke it with poisonous smoke? Zhu Dachuan replied on behalf of Zhou Pao Tu, I'm afraid it's not appropriate. Xiong hibernates and sleeps very shallow. A slightly larger movement can wake him up. Liang Song interjected, at that time, it would be very irritable, and it would be difficult for you to come up with a gun to stab it. Then act according to the plan, prioritize consumption, and cannot compete head-on. Zhou Pao Tu summarized. Zhao Lin nodded and said, I understand. When the enemy advances, we retreat. When the enemy stays, we harass. When the enemy is tired, we fight. When the enemy retreats, we pursue. The three of them looked at him together, and Zhou Pao slapped him and said, "Wow, that's great." Zhao Lin grinned, thinking that such a powerful tactical idea was not something I had summarized. The plan has been made, and everyone has divided the tasks. Zhu Dachuan is responsible for purchasing poison. The poison used is arsenic and aconite, both of which are highly toxic. When buying from the pharmacy, it is necessary to keep a name on them, and there is a daily sales quota. Zhu Dachuan's task is to travel to the medicine halls in various villages and towns of Qinghe County to buy medicine. Zhou Pao and Liang Song are responsible for collecting poisonous insects and searching for hibernating scorpions, centipedes, poisonous spiders, etc. under the rocks and in the crevices of the rocks. Zhao Lin also has a task to collect firewood nearby and keep the heated Kong at Zhou Baozi's house burning. The room will warm up, and the poisonous insects caught will slowly wake up, giving Bear a big surprise. Life is fulfilling and busy. Zhou Pao and Liang Song caught dozens of poisonous insects in the past 2 days and kept them in several iron cages in the stove. The poisonous insects in the mountains are particularly large, with centipedes half a foot long and scorpions with huge venomous claws, making people feel uneasy when they look at them. Out of curiosity, Zhao Lin caught a scorpion and trampled it to death without anyone else. He could see the spirit of the scorpion, but the spirit-beast diagram showed no reaction at all. Zhao Lin felt slightly disappointed and thought to himself that scorpions must have special abilities. Their special ability is extremely poisonous, and they cannot absorb their essence on their own, mostly due to different body structures. If only I could also poison. I remember in the novel there is a martial art called poison sand palm. That night, 4 people were sitting around eating together when Zhou Pao suddenly said, "Spring is about to start. You can see the sunset these 2 days, and the next few days should be sunny. Why don't we take action the day after tomorrow?" End of this chapter.